Okay. I'm ready.
Got it? You got it? Okay.
Hey, you guys got different shirts than us, you two.
I
Oh, you
know.
three,
Okay.
actually.
Yeah, 1 second.
Oh, too short.
Or maybe,
Smile.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our BranchOut and Veritas Education Committee workshop on college careers and the BranchOut advantages. I'm Alekia Hota, and I will be one of your hosts for tonight.
And hello, everyone. My name is Arbaz Singh, and I will be your other host for tonight.
And hello, my name is Hanson Jong, and I will be your tech support for tonight.
So, we are part of the program BranchOut. BranchOut is a nonprofit program with Veritas education leaders that was co founded by Dr. Yuxian Wu and Mr. Richard Wang in 2015. The organization has grown from 20 student volunteers to over 150 student volunteers in 4 short summers. Our high school student mentors come from over 50 different schools across 6 states.
We started out as a peer STEM mentoring program working at community centers, family shelters, and county summer credit recovery programs, and have expanded into a community outreach program to promote cross cultural understanding by featuring community heroes, creating research articles, developing apps, and organizing community workshops. As an award winning community engagement program, we have received endorsement from U.S. Congress, including Senator Tim Kaine and Senator Andy Kim. Additionally, our Innovator program won the U.S. Congressional App Challenge Award.
It truly is hard to believe that the BranchOut organization just celebrated its 10th anniversary last year.
As part of BranchOut's goals to promote civic engagement, community, and STEM education, we're extremely glad to have you here today with us. We are also delighted to welcome our distinguished panelists today who happen to be BranchOut alumni themselves.
Our first panelist is Kevin Sun, who graduated from Oakton High School. Kevin is a software engineer at FactSet Research Systems, where he builds AI infrastructure and full stack platforms for financial data. Kevin enrolled at NYU Stern to study finance before eventually picking up a second degree in computer science. His entry into tech began when he joined NYU's Innovation Society, where he led technical workshops and helped organize entrepreneurship competitions. Kevin first got hands-on engineering experience as a full-stack intern at Fundstrat Global Advisors, where he redesigned the company's website architecture. He quickly developed a passion for building, after graduating. Kevin joined FactSet full-time after graduation, and over the past 3 years, he's built a Gen AI testing layer that automates evaluation of model responses, engineered data integrity tools used across the organization, and developed a quality assurance automation system. Kevin's finance background strengthens his understanding of the domain he builds for, while his computer science training gives him the technical depth to ship at scale. Outside of work, Kevin is a passionate traveler and is channeling that passion into building a startup at the intersection of travel and AI.
Our second panelist is Austin Chong, who graduated from McLean High School. Austin is a product designer who has designed digital experiences for Amazon, Google, and Nike. Austin enrolled in Yale University, originally to study physics, before eventually changing majors and graduating with a degree in architecture and computer science. His entry into the design world began when he joined a Yale startup organization as a full stack developer. He first learned about design while working on his health tech startup Pill Notes, and he quickly developed a passion for design. Austin continued pursuing design, eventually landing summer internships at Google, Nike, and Amazon. After graduating, Austin returned to Amazon full time as a product designer. His background in computer science strengthens his understanding of how products are built, while his architecture background allows him to think about how users move through an experience. Austin uses these unique interdisciplinary perspectives to build products that are as functionally sound as they are intuitive.
To start this panel, we'll ask some general questions and some icebreaker questions, and then later move into some in-depth questions. If either of our panelists have any thoughts, please feel free to unmute and share them. For our first question, thinking back to when you were in high school, what were you like as a student, and why did you decide to join BranchOut?
yeah, for sure. I can answer that first. So back in high school, I would say I was pretty quiet and studious, the kind of student who just tried to do well, but very much so still figuring things out. I was pretty studious, took a bunch of AP classes, partly to boost my GPA and stuff, but I was also figuring out what interested me. Um, So Austin here actually was my good friend. I've known him since elementary school. And as for BranchOut, Austin was the one who actually introduced me to Dr. Wu and the program itself. And at first, to be honest, I saw it as like a great way to strengthen my resume and my college application to volunteer and provide impact to the community. But once I got more involved and started working directly with the students and families and at these the homeless shelter or the schools, city charter schools, I realized it was more so than just a piece of sorry, more so a line on a piece of paper, and it became more of like a real tangible impact that I could feel being able to help people in ways that actually really mattered.
That's great to hear, Kevin. Mm, yeah, actually, I'd say similarly. Yeah, just like taking APs was definitely kind of the normal route and expectation I have for myself as well. I remember I first learned about BranchOut, which at the time was called something else, right? When I had this like writing class with Dr. Wu, kind of separate from this whole I think, but it was a writing class meant for like trying to discover your interests, your passions. And I remember toward the end of it, of like maybe one of the first few sessions, I my dad had told me about, oh, it's like she manages this organization. Why don't you see if like there's something you can help out with? So I remember that like I didn't I did a little bit of research on it, but altogether didn't really know too much. Yeah, it was a self-discovery class, right? And so after the class, I just kind of, it was a small class, maybe 3 or 4 people, and I just pulled Dr. Wu aside. I mentioned like, hey, I learned you're doing something for this. I'm happy to help out in any way I can. As a student, see how much I could help out compared to maybe like a professional. But I was curious. But it was after getting to and Dr. Wu thankfully was like very welcoming to that. She's like, this is exactly the type of thing we're looking for. And yeah, created first website, right? And so I just kind of went with the flow at first, but I realized after a couple of weeks of hanging out of like hanging out with other people, other onboarding some other student mentors, that this was something that I found very rewarding. And I mean, we'll get into that, I guess, a little bit, but high level, yeah, that's kind of how I got into BranchOut.
That's great. Thank you for both of your responses. I think it's really interesting how you both learned about Branch Out through chance, but it ended up turning out to be a really rewarding experience, as you both said, and it overall ended up being very successful. So thank you for that. My next question is, what is one thing about your college or career journey that would surprise people? And
Hmm.
then, I guess,
I,
yeah.
I can take this one first, Kevin. Yeah, as Araz had mentioned in the brief introduction, I originally came into college wanting to do physics, and I remember at the time I was like, I was like into it. I was like a hot shot. But very quickly after taking some classes and hanging out with people, just kind of learning about a lot more fields, a lot more what's out there, I um, I naturally gravitated towards some more of the arts. Actually, first it was computer science, eventually doing like the startup stuff. Um, but even like UX design and architecture, both of these fields that nowadays I would say is like my main focus or something I'm really passionate about. I had never heard about these things in high school before college at all. So one thing I guess that would be surprising is like having this idea that I belong in the STEM field, engineering, specifically, or math, and eventually pivoting to what people, I guess, would consider pretty different. I mean, there's a lot of overlap, but it is quite distinct, the arts and architecture. So I guess that's a surprising thing that like college can unlock this part of you that you didn't know.
Yeah. As for me, I think the most surprising thing is that like I chose NYU, and NYU actually doesn't have like a traditional campus. There's no like campus setting for students where there's only students. So literally your campus is New York City, and from day one, it felt like I'd been thrown into the middle of Manhattan, right? You walk out of class and you're suddenly surrounded by everyone or like the whole city, right? So I feel like that environment kind of forced me to grow up fast, mature faster, and try to navigate the real world alongside my academics. But the positive thing about that, though, is that I think being part of BranchOut kind of prepared me for that. It fostered a sense of community. I was able to find people that I really liked. And even though the outside world was really hectic, I was able to rely on this community of mine. It opened doors that I didn't even know existed, being able to know how to network, have friendships, and make professional connections. So that's pretty exciting stuff.
Actually, small thing is Kevin and I remember at the beginning of college, there was like we didn't talk much a little bit in the very beginning of it. It was like just so much overwhelming new st novel stuff, right? But
Mm.
eventually, like we kind of reconvened maybe toward the end of first year, and it was a very stark contrast to see like the Kevin before in high school or pre-college, and then even within that first year. I mean, he mentions like yeah, in New York, it being a hot pot of or like a hectic hellfire of all this people and no campus is very jarring and stark contrast from before. But I mean, he definitely became more of a like a, a better speaker, a better kind of communicator as well. It's really rewarding to see that as well.
Yeah, I would say likewise to you, honestly, because I know Yale, it was a pretty tough environment to adapt to, right? I feel. I know Austin has mentioned many times where it's like you're with the best of the best, right? And so you really have to work hard and learn and get up to speed, which I think BranchOut has prepared you pretty well for.
The humbling experience. Quickly pivot out of physics kind of thing. Yeah,
All right. Yeah. Thank you both for your insight. Austin, I actually found it really comforting in a way where when you said that college can unlock something new in you, because as a junior myself, I'm still discovering who I am as a person, and I'm sure Arbaz is as well. And so we have this mindset where we pick a major when we're applying to college, and then we stick to that major in college. But I think it's actually really common, students switching their major into something completely different, right? And so I think that kind of just gave me a little bit of comfort that it's okay to switch out of something that I thought I liked. But
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. I'd say the majority of the people I know switch their major at some point from what they first initially came into it. But also, it might depend on the university a little bit. Yale was fortunately small enough and like liberal arts enough that it allowed for this, allow you to switch majors without much barrier. But I know for something like UVA, for example, if you get into the engineering, it's very hard to switch into the engineering school.
right.
Whereas switching out of it, I guess, maybe a little easier, just competitive. So it kind of depends on that a little bit, but you're right. The goal is still the same though. Try to find something that you really resonate and you're passionate about because in the long term, it's what serves you.
Right. And I think that's something that a lot of us in this webinar can need to hear. For our next question, given that you are both BranchOut alumni, what is one memory or experience from your days at BranchOut that still sticks with you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say one memory that has really stayed with me throughout the years is that I was volunteering at a middle school. I forget which one, but it was a Saturday morning, and these were the kids that needed to stay extra to receive more help. I believe they were seventh graders doing math. So I was actually working with a student who is clearly struggling and feeling frustrated. And at the time, I just tried to break things down in a way that clicked for them to help them understand and help them learn. So after that lesson ended, the student actually came up to me, like he found me outside of the classroom and said, "Thanks for your help. You made like things a lot easier to understand." And from then, I realized that wow, that hit me in a way like I didn't really expect. It wasn't really about learning the math essentially, but it was more so about seeing someone become more confident and secure in their own abilities just because something I did. So that's when I understood that like branch out was really just not about volunteering only, but it's also about empowering students, empowering people, and showing them that they're more capable than they think they are.
Yeah, I had a very similar takeaway. I'd say for memory, or I'd say a high level, a memory that I have is like, or a number of memories where I realized that the volunteer program branch out was, even though it seemed like really a educational purpose in terms of like at the time STEM or like STEAM related activities like building engineering activities or little pasta bridges, for example. a lot, I'd say high level wise, my memories are, they suggest that it was a lot more than just that. So I remember one time that in, I think it was when I was at DC, there was like this auditorium that after some classroom setting, they all moved the students to this like huge auditorium, but like there was nothing there. It was just like a stage. And uh it was kind of like late at night and similarly like after school kind of waiting for parents to pick them up. But I remember at some point one of them brought out this little toy. I it was called like it was like a Disney toy. It was called like a Bitsy, I think. It was basically like a Tamagotchi looking thing, but I never heard of that. And I'm sure all the youngins now, I don't know how the audience here, but like how if you guys would know what that is. But I only discovered the name of it later in college when someone like it naturally came up in a conversation, someone had it and they were like, "You don't know what that is?" I was like, "Oh, hold on, cut me some slack here." But I remember like connecting the two from a college experience and then something that I'd seen that us like a little kid had brought in as a toy. And it just reminded me and then the way we bonded over that and kind of laughing and discovering what this was together was a very rewarding experience that was kind of an addition to all the things that branch out seemed to be about like the STEAM engineering activities first.
Well, that's really cool. I think both of you, especially Austin, that's really cool how you remember that little object and how it really shaped how you see branch out and learning in general. And then Kevin, the way that I think you said it really well that it's not about learning or teaching, it's about connecting on a deeper level and really understanding the fact that we can have a much larger impact on others in our community and we can empower our community a lot more than we think. We have the power to do a lot more than we think. So I think those both were really great insights. My next question to both of you is if you could describe your college experience in one word, and I know we've already sort of talked about your college experiences, but if you could, describe it in one word, what would it be and why?
My word is search. Mm, And the reason I chose this word is because I mean, similar to what I had said before about pivoting between physics, computer science, and architecture, I would say in general, um, an attitude that I learned and saw in a lot of my peers that I really love is the desire to just try out other fields from what they initially or like focus would be. So for example, in especially in the first 2 years of college, I tried a lot of other things like ethics, cognitive science. I remember there was a specific thing about like relativity that I learned, and all these courses they shape who I am today more than honestly the classes that were dedicated to my major. For some reason, I guess maybe it being an elective, I just kind of pay attention to it more. But eventually, like in toward the latter half of college, um, I tried out some other classes regarding like movie making and like writing classes. Very diverse set of classes, I guess you can say. But that's one aspect, of course, curriculum wise. And then also aside from that, just like activities and like hanging out with people, trying out, like there are things that I don't know that other people mention, like the Bitsy toy, for example, or even just like they're talking about news in some like NFT, field. I never knew anything about it, so asking them and kind of learning about it through all these people was an attitude that you kind of have to build up over time. And so I'm grateful that a lot of things in Branch Out they kind of give you the skill set, they give you the interpersonal kind of communication skills to navigate that in a rewarding way.
Yeah, so I think my answer is it kind of in tandem to Austin's. I would say mine is pretty transformative is the word I would choose. I kind of went into NYU as, I grew up in the Northern Virginia, I believe, which is like kind of a bubble. And then I also had, similarly to like some previous topics, I actually had chosen finance as my initial major going into NYU, but I came out double majoring in both finance and computer science, which with the more of a focus on computer science. Um, but as Austin said, I went in there, tried finance, realized that it was not necessarily the thing that I really wanted to do. But then I then had tried some computer science classes at NYU actually in my freshman year. I really liked it. So I ended up, doing computer science, it's completely, adding that as a major and started to build things with my own hands. And it really developed into like who I am and figuring out like, oh, what is it I actually want to do in the world. So NYU also is just like there's no one to hold your hand really. There's no bubble like Nova. I think it's very safe. But coming out to NYU is really transformed me. It forced me to evolve, to mature, and to learn about the real world. And yeah, I think that was
Quick
absolutely
question for you,
correct.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Why computer science in
Yeah,
particular?
so that's a great question. I think like at the time it was actually COVID. I was probably a sophomore. Yeah, I was a sophomore in college here. I made the decision then because at the time I wanted to, play around and it was COVID. Obviously, I was stuck at home, and I actually built my first portfolio website. And building that portfolio website, like it felt really creative, being able to express who I was, show off like, oh, I can design the website like this, or I can make these functionalities happen. So that was really fun. And I realized, wow, this is actually something I kind of want to do.
That's great. Yeah, thank you both for your insight. Kevin, I kind of agree with you. I go to Madison, which is right across the street from Oakton. And kind of being in this Nova area, it is kind of a bubble versus like New York City, which is very bubbly and very busy and whatnot. So I can't imagine what that change is like. And then Austin, I like what you said about trying the different activities and like learning about new things and just kind of searching for what you like. And it really resonated with me. This next question is actually specifically for Kevin. And you kind of went into this a little bit, but you started out studying finance before pursuing computer science. What made you want to, was there a specific event that made you want to pursue that path?
Yeah, so I think this is I kind of touched upon it already, but the turning point was basically my sophomore year. That year, I actually had landed an internship at it's called Fundstrat Global Advisors. It's basically a financial research boutique. Initially, I was hired as a uh, finance intern. I was basically working PowerPoints, and Excel spreadsheets all day. But uh, to be honest, like I want to be clear, the experience was like super valuable and I'm grateful for it, but the actual day-to-day work was not exciting to me. It felt kind of mundane and kind of repetitive. During that time, actually, I had reached out to my boss of the internship and said like, "Hey, is it possible if I could like pivot into doing something else more related to the website?" Because at the time, I also had been coding up my own portfolio website, which I touched upon earlier, and I realized that like I was designing something, building from scratch, and seeing that come to life was really exciting, and it's a very stark contrast to what I was doing in my day to day. Thankfully, my boss was like, "Yeah, yeah, you can try working on the company website, seeing what we're doing there." And so that was a great initial introduction into being able to see what it's like working on a website in the real world at this company, right? So that's when I decided to make the full pivot into computer science. And to be honest, like it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. Now that I'm working as a software engineer at FactSet, and I'm also, building my own startup on the side, that creative energy I had discovered through coding has shaped, everything since.
Yeah, Kevin, I think that's really great. And kind of going back to how you said when you were a finance intern, you were doing a lot of PowerPoints and Excel spreadsheets sort of day to day. As someone who wants to go into that field as well, I know that that's mostly what the work is centered around, and it's a lot of long hours and stuff like that. So I think it's really great that you realized that early on and you were able to make that pivot early on, because I think that really shapes how our career paths go on, and how we shape them. So I think it's much better when we shape them early on rather than later on. So I think it's great that you had that opportunity early on. And I think that relates back to the word that you chose, transformative, because college was the place where you were able to, leave the Northern Virginia bubble and broaden your mindset from just finance to other paths. And eventually you chose to take those other paths. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's really
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, I would say for those pursuing finance, like I don't want to don't get me wrong, it's still very valuable and it's still a very good journey to take on. It just wasn't for me. So everyone has their own path, and it's up to them to figure that out.
Right, for sure. So my next question is going to be for Austin specifically. So you've worked with companies like Google, Nike, and Amazon. What was the most valuable lesson you learned at these, big companies?
I'd say the most valuable lesson is that it's not particularly what you're working on that's as like the value of what your career here, but rather how you navigate working with a team. So at Google, Nike, and Amazon, these are like the big tech guys, and or at least Google and Amazon are. And so I was afforded a team like a bigger design team, which is a unique thing because design is not really super what's the word like there's not companies don't always value it unless you're these bigger companies like Google and Amazon. Oftentimes it can be like, oh, we just need some front end developers, for example. But I learned that working with a team was a very important skill set that honestly I feel like this probably translates to every other job on the planet. Job, not just job, but even like your friendships and your, on a smaller scale, or a personal level rather. And, day to day, there'll be mixes between like, okay, there's collaborative sessions, like when you're in the same room working on the same whiteboards, tackling the same problems. But then there's also kind of like your own time, like you're solving a problem, but you need to update your team, kind of like say, where this is where my head's at. What do you think? Being able to communicate that clearly rather than wait for things to kind of, fester on their own, I think is something that I learned at Google and Amazon. I'm very grateful for. Still trying to learn that. Sometimes it does feel like I'm in a silo a bit, but yeah, I think collaboration makes these memories and these career experiences worthwhile. That's something that I feel like, yeah, you could apply to personal level, career level as well.
Yeah, that is very valuable. As someone who leads a team with my partner as well, it is absolutely very important to communicate what you need early on and get whatever you need to do done quickly. And then also learning to work with a team is also really important, especially in an environment like BranchOut, because you're constantly working with people. There is no independent work other than like maybe a couple exceptions.
Yeah, I remember when Kevin and I we were working on early on this branch out stuff that there's a difference between trying to get like there's goals that we need to accomplish as a unit or like as an organization, but it takes the individual actions of people, like in terms of a leader, like helping delegate these tasks to each person. And sometimes in a group setting, it can be a little not awkward per se, but like it's easy to kind of assume someone else is going to do it. And so part of being, I guess, in your guys' role, Alekia and our boss, like learning to navigate that. It'll be different from group to group and person to person. But when I was with BranchOut, it involved like a lot of like tapping Kevin on the shoulder individually, like, hey, like I'm working on this flyer. You specifically, you want to help me out? Or like, hey, we're gonna go manage this event. We need someone to handle the curriculum. Like, can you take care of that, Daniel? Something like that. But yeah, that was a specific to my case, my time there, but I'm sure there are things like that that you're learning as well.
Absolutely, yeah. This next question is for both of you, but for students who want to follow a similar path, like landing internships, getting into top colleges, or joining top companies, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Unless you got something, Kevin.
You can go first.
Okay. Uh, Absolutely. That's a fantastic experience that I'm very grateful to have. Internships are great ways to, kind of build your resume. I mean, more importantly though, learn skills, work on things that you can kind of gauge like, oh, I care about this. I worked on Prime Gaming when I was at Amazon, and it was something that I'm like, oh, I'm really passionate about this gaming industry. I want to pursue it more. Colleges as well, like in the end, I guess a lot of the learnings you'll have in college are very similar. I'm sure Kevin and I will tell you very similar things about like opening up your or like broadening your horizons, learning that people come from all sorts of backgrounds. But then there's also university specific things that will bond you specifically, me with my fellow Yaleys and NYU with whatever your mascots are. Do you even have one? I don't know. But yeah, it is rewarding, and you kind of like I feel like a part of me is like it didn't really matter exactly which college it was, but the attitude of wanting to learn, the attitude of being open to other options, career-wise and people-wise, hobby-wise, was something that I'm very, very grateful for doing. And I think that training that skill early on is probably nothing better I could have done. I would have leaned into it more had I known what I know now. Yeah.
Yeah. To expand upon that, actually, oh, by the way, our mascots are Bobcats at NYU.
Okay.
But but I would say that first, like, just don't be afraid to try things that might not work out. I initially had chose finance, went into NYU Stern because I thought, this is a good path for me. It would be successful. And I also did that internship at the Fundstrat, the financial boutique. It took me so much, yeah, so much time to learn that even though wasn't for me, it was still kind of essential because it showed me what I didn't want, right? Every experience kind of teaches you something. And from there I learned that I really liked computer science, right? Second is just be proactive about, doing real things and building real things, whether it's a project or a website, building an app, or even just volunteering, right? Here at BranchOut, you're putting yourself in positions where you're creating and you're contributing and not just consuming. I feel like that's what stands out in a lot of like applications and interviews and things of that nature. And then I think lastly is that your network matters a lot as well. The connections I had made through BranchOut, just by showing up and being present, those relationships have like opened so many more doors than I ever thought it would, more than just any single class or whatever my GPA ever did, right? Um, and then lastly, I think it's just, be uncomfortable, take risks, learn to fail. When I went from Northern Virginia to New York City with no campus, no safety net, like nothing like that, I felt really uncomfortable. I felt like really hectic, and I really struggled. But that discomfort is exactly what enabled me to grow and to mature into the person I am today.
Yeah, actually, one thing you mentioned that jogged some of your memory was, um, I think, yeah, even uh, if okay, audience might be more of like I guess parents here probably, or like in terms of what they might be able to offer for their students. Um, I think that one thing that fared well for me was, how I mentioned earlier that like getting involved in Branch Out all started with a really small question or ask, kind of just every day, even me asking Dr. Wu, be like, hey, is there anything you need help with? Rather than, like necessarily there be an application for a program, it was a combination of a little bit of initiative, a little bit of just curiosity, and then a little bit of dumb luck, of course. But I think encouraging really small actions like this is something that is a good way to train. I think Kevin mentioned like networking as being a really important part of his development. This is one thing that can facilitate that. Networking is pretty challenging and like really, you kind of lose social battery quickly, or people can get really anxious about it depending on the type of, introvertedness or extrovertedness. But um, but I think starting off with like really small things is a way to build that up and yeah, like as opposed to expecting an overnight change, it takes time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really liked. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kevin.
I was gonna just add on to that, like I mentioned earlier, don't be afraid to fail means also to like don't be afraid of rejection either. Like there's gonna be people out there that don't necessarily want your worth, right? But then don't let that, determine your worth either. You keep reaching out, keep finding people that are able to give you the opportunities that you want, and eventually you'll definitely get there.
Yeah, I feel like that's something a lot of us here today especially need to hear. I feel like there's a lot of emphasis that we have on making sure that we're doing the best we can in every aspect of our student lives in order to get into the best college. But in reality, it's okay to take risks. It's okay to fail because that's going to teach us more lessons than, winning and simply moving on ever will. And so I like both of your emphasis on that. And then, Kevin, I also really liked your emphasis on uncomfortability. I think that teaches us a lot more lessons through experience than like I said, just doing something we're sort of used to doing ever will. And of course, you both mentioned the value of learning those specific skills in Austin, as you said, those little initiatives that are going to lead to broader impacts in the future. I just really liked how you specifically emphasized the fact that real world projects, initiatives are going to be what really help us further ourselves and become more successful because those are going to be what we're really going to be working on, past college and things like that. So I just wanted to say to the group and our participants as well, I think having that exposure to real world scenarios and situations is going to be very beneficial to you, even outside the academic world that we're in right now. So thank you both for that. I really like that. My next question is, what advice would you give to current BranchOut students who want to make the most of their time in the program?
Yeah, I can take this one first. Let me think for a second. I would say that when you join BranchOut, really lean into the work that you're doing and really realize like what you're doing as well. I feel like there's real value when you lean into the work itself, when you actually, connect with the students and kind of the families that you're serving, right? Being able to pay attention to those small moments, right? Like for example, my personal story, like a student thanking you after a tutoring session, right? Or perhaps a family expressing gratitude after all you've helped them with, right? I feel like those small moments really shape how you kind of see yourself and also make you realize what you're really capable of, being able to help other people to provide impact to shape a community, right? And then also, I would say just build relationships with the other people in the program, right? I think these are people that you might be able to, leave with lifelong friendships with, right? Not only are they other mentors, like your friends, but also you can reach out to people like Dr. Wu, right? These are the people that genuinely care about you and specifically your growth. So I really stress to take advantage of that, right? Keep asking those questions, keep seeking advice, and to stay engaged even when it feels like, it's just another, volunteering event, right?
Yeah, honestly, I really don't have much to add on top of that other than like same similar message there. Just I think for some people it comes more naturally to remember things, like you're mentioning like keeping these memories with or these stories um that that happened in your mind and then kind of like dwelling on it, letting it like transform you, right? I'm wondering if it doesn't come so naturally to some people, like how would they navigate that? I feel like a lot of between Kevin and I in our friend groups, Kevin and I have just a more of a natural tendency. Maybe it's like a nostalgic hoarding going on or something, but we tend to hold dear a lot of memories, which has served us and obviously sometimes caused some sadness. Uh, but I think finding a way to help you remember these things is going to serve you in the long run, whether that be like literally taking notes or taking photos. I feel like there's things that we can do to help jog the memory and make, practice this skill. But yeah, remembering things is a big thing. And actually one thing that Dr. Wu kind of instilled in or like showed me the value of this was sometimes when working within the team, it's easy to just kind of like work and not really reflect. But as a bystander to the group, or like overseeing the student organization, Dr. Wu kind of had the perspective. She is able to point out things that she notices in these calls, for example, and she'd highlight it to at least what I heard. I heard my own, my own highlights, but I think her highlighting that also um, kind of unearthed this like, oh yeah, that's a reflection that needs to be done, and that is something that I do that is good or like valuable. So I think finding ways to remember, whether that be photos, writing down, or just kind of like basking in the moment, I suppose, is probably the best way to make use of your time and letting it transform you into a kind of more like a, you know, a wholer person. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think a lot of the things that I've done with Branch Out have shaped who I am as a person. And actually, Kevin, what you said about paying attention to the small moments, I actually really connected with that because there were so many moments when I was during the STEM day that we hosted last year for little kids. There were so many kids that came up to me and they were like, "When does this end? I don't want to leave." In a way. And that made my heart so happy because it's not for us that we're doing, it's not for the college apps that we're doing this for, it's for the impact that we make on the community.
Yeah.
Our last and final question before we transition to the Q&A, for both of you, why did you two apply to Branch Out and why should other high schoolers apply to Branch Out?
I think I'll let Austin start with this one because my story is he was the one who invited me, so I'll let him start.
Um, why did I apply to branch out? I'm just reading the question again. And why should other high schoolers apply? Um, I mean, yeah, as I mentioned, I got started via messaging or like talking to Dr. Wu in person. Mm, it's branch out, I mean, like is an opportunity for you to exercise your skills of uh communication, working with the team, and honestly just like relating to other people your age. I think it's a very valuable not skill, but like an aspect of life. I feel like a lot of relatability things will they translate into the ways that you're able to talk and like get along and like affect things. And I mean that with an E. But I I feel like in high school there was nothing more transformative than my time at Branch Out. I helped lead some things. I got feedback from my team, but also from mostly from Dr. Wu about like things that I should lean into my own strengths, and then some other weaknesses as well. It helped me identify things about myself, both for my own personal use, but also for like my college apps as well. They're actually very important to the essays that I wrote and this story that I'm crafting. I don't think I would have come to those conclusions without that volunteer program at BranchOut. That honestly, I didn't even actively like. I wasn't aware, like consciously thinking, oh, I would do this for my resume. I would do this for, you know, a better communication skills per se. But it panned out that way, and I'm very grateful looking back. And it's not really something that I guess I was actively thinking at the moment, but yeah, that's my experience. I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah. So following up on that, so the reason that I applied to branch out was because Austin was actually the one who told me about it, and he actually took the initiative to message all his friends, be like, "Hey, I think this is something cool that we should help Dr. Wu with, to build up the program." And to be honest, at the time, I'm not gonna sugarcoat things. I thought it would be like a strong addition to my college application, which it was, right? But I think what I found something much more meaningful than that is that Branch Out kind of gave me the chance to directly impact people's lives, right? And that experience kind of fundamentally changed how I thought about success, right? It's not about like what you just achieve for yourself, but also it's about, what you can contribute and change about the people around you, right? For like any high schooler that's considering applying, I'd say like these words, like you're gonna get way more out of branch out than what you put in, right? There's so much more value to branch out that will help you learn and grow as a person, right? You'll develop leadership skills. For example, for Austin, he took the initiative to reach out to me, right? You'll be able to gain empathy with working through these students. It might be frustrating at times, maybe they're not getting a certain concept or whatnot, but being able to be patient to help them learn and understand that is so much more bigger than just, learning itself. And also, lastly, just getting a sense of purpose that goes beyond just the test scores or the grades, right? You'll learn what it means to kind of you know build a better version, help someone build a better version of themselves. And that's something you'll carry along with you, way after high school, right? You'll be Plus, you'll also be motivated by like other students and mentors who will also push you to grow here at BranchOut. To be honest, like Austin said, it's probably one of the most transformative things in my high school career, and definitely one of the best decisions I ever made in high school. And I genuinely think it can be the same for you.
Thank you both. I definitely agree with that. And I feel like in my experience thus far in Branch Out, I've also found it to be very transformative. As you both said, not only has it built my communication, collaboration, and ability to build relationships with others, but it's also had, and the fundamental message that you've both been saying is that it's had a broader impact and a deeper meaning than, meets the eye. And so I think that's one of the aspects of Branch Out that makes it so unique and special. And I think that's why you guys have had such great experiences with it. So thank you both for that insight. So thank you both, as I said, for giving such thoughtful responses to all of our questions. On that note, we're now going to open up the panel to any questions from the viewers. So viewers, if you would please feel free to type your questions in the chat, and we'll answer them one by one.
Actually, I can speak on Amazon specifically as well. I mean, it applies more generally to all those top companies. They have this principle that that guides their hiring process. It's like at any moment the people employed at Amazon should be like better than essentially better than like the majority of the workforce out there that's applying. And so as they receive applications, new applications from other software, other roles, they're also assessing, the existing teams and like are they is our you know like what's the word is our team's caliber like the better or equal or better ideally better than the people applying, and then they kind of revisit that and have this natural cycle of like lay off some people of course and then bring in new skills. But yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't really get around to that, to be honest, but receiving the feedback from peers was an important part. And so when you're working on again, I mentioned like working on a team is a very important skill set. It's, it's part of their rubric or their judging criteria of whether or not you should stay or even get a promotion as well is, discussion, feedback from like product managers or other engineers or your managers, um, about whether or not you're you're exhibiting the top level for your role.
Yeah, for sure. I think to add on to that, as a software engineer myself, you mentioned like AI use, like how they actually try to uh, track that. And to be honest with you, I actually use AI every day. It's been really fulfilling experience to be able to get work done faster and more efficiently. While I don't think it'll be replacing software engineers or anything like that, I actually think it'll be helping transform the way the job is conducted, where you're taking more initiative to really figure out what the proper design decisions are, what technical stack that you should use for the application should be, and like what are the critical architectural design, decisions that we need to take upon, right? And this helps ideate and helps us free up some time to just think about what can be improved, what can be done more efficiently. So yeah, given the potential impact of AI in various industries, how should high school students think about the majors they should pursue? That's a good question. I would say I initially pursued computer science because of the creativity aspect of it for sure. But I don't think AI should really hinder or like, prevent someone from really choosing something they really like. While the AI is pretty transformative, it is changing up a lot of industries. It's causing a lot of, fear mongering, I would say. The truth is like you should just play around with it and see how much has it actually changed the industry specifically. For my industry, I touched upon it, right? It is making ideating, is making things work more efficient, right? But it can't necessarily take over the decision making aspect of the work that I do, right? Being able to design applications. What AI is good for is being able to, and act upon that to actually like build out the decisions that I make. And uh, actually, I'm building my own startup too, where I've been coding with Claude Code every day, right? And that has helped facilitate the idea to execution pipeline, right? So it's so much easier to just create ideas now to try new things and then see it come into real life, become tangible, right? But I still think you should choose whatever you like to do. I think that's most important.
This is something that I personally also kind of dealt with when I first came into physics. I'm not sure if you know, but physics is like a long, it's kind of like doctorhood as well, where you have to go to school for like a million years. And then to top that off, once you get out for physics, yeah, you're not receiving much pay either. So it's a little bit impact of like your pay versus your own enjoyment. And this will always be, I think this will always be true in any given era, whether it be AI or, back when the dot-com came around, like it'll always be there. And I think people will always be struggling with finding stuff that they're passionate about to, just make their days fulfilling. It'll be pitted against what's out there technology wise and like skill set wise. Of course, learning AI and like computer science will help, establish a foundation where you have these as options. Like for example, there's some things that like finance things, for example, that I cannot. It would take a very long time for me to rebuild the fundamental skills, and then go explore that. But likewise, for someone in architecture, like you have to learn a lot of these softwares and a lot of the skills, and a lot of the design thinking that fortunately I've kind of had that training. So of course it'll impact that way. But more importantly is, yeah, finding something you're passionate about. It will always be a challenge, regardless of what the industry is, I guess.
Yeah. I would also say like instead of trying to fight it, try to take advantage of it, see what you can actually do with it. It's like been easier than ever to really build something and make it maybe even start your own business, right? Do entrepreneurship, right? AI has given that capability to us.
To be honest, though, to answer your question as well, is it actually might be an advantage to do the somewhat non-standard majors, just because it's very, I guess, like saturated in that sense, where there's a lot of people getting into it. And it's not that people are necessarily faking it or anything, but like technology has made it so much more relevant, AI, and like even accessibility to resources. Like learning coding has become easier than ever. Online tools, like free online tools, and like frameworks you can play around with on your computer. It's no longer like having to search everything up on Stack Overflow and like, kind of learn it the hard way, of course. But it might be better to even go into with the other topics, whether that be art stuff or I don't know, agriculture, all these other smaller things that you probably never heard of, maybe could be the strategy that not sure.
Yeah. I'll go on to the next question from Alicia here. Can you talk a bit about your job seeking process? So yeah. Um, so I actually was hunting like software engineering jobs before all this AI stuff came out. So I can only speak on that. I'm not sure how much has changed. I feel like it's changed significantly, to be honest, but it's still relatively like the same, I would say. But basically it was a lot of networking and a lot of leak code grinding. So through networking, I actually found my first couple internships through I joined a fraternity in college as well. So I was able to leverage those connections to be able to find my first internship, which is the financial boutique firm. And then landing my second internship, my junior year internship at FactSet, which I currently actually work at now. Uh, that was more so just like cold applying and then also just grinding LeetCode, so LeetCode is basically a website where you're given like algorithmic problems for computer science, this stuff that you have to learn and stuff they actually test through the software engineering interview process. So I actually grinded that, did about, like 100, 200 questions or so, and was able to land that internship. My interview specifically, I remember was, I believe four rounds, like a behavioral, two technicals, and then one like super day where I had two technicals and a behavioral. So it was just a lot of just grinding and staying focused and learning as much as I can.
Yeah, different industries will have different processes. Like for example, computer science, it is kind of like solving these problems in real time. For design things, it's like portfolio reviews and behavioral questions, just like talking with the team, how you collaborate with other peers and other roles. And I know for like finance, like there's all sorts of diverse set of requirements. But yeah, I would say also a lot of my experiences have just been through networking as well. Like I had to reach out on LinkedIn, a number of people just to first learn about the job, and not because I saw a role opening. It was just because I wanted to work at Google, for example. So I messaged this woman named Alice, who lived in Toronto, nowhere near me. She was an interaction or a designer as well. And I just sat down to chat with her. Really, it was similar with Dr. Wu. It's kind of like saying, "Hi, can I help with anything?" Or in this case, it's like, "Can I just learn more about what you do?" And then from there, it turned into an internship because she knew a hiring manager who's looking for a role. And even though I went through the application, it's kind of like you have a way in first. Similarly with Amazon and even the startup stuff I had done in freshman year, I kind of bypassed it, effectively. All is fair in love and war and job searching as well. And yeah, I'm not really sure about the AI, nowadays too much, but that's also how I found most of my roles, similar to Kevin.
Thank you once again to our outstanding panelists and for all of you for attending. And before we leave, we would like to show you a 30-second video about the different awards that BranchOut offers. Okay, in the meantime, we hope this workshop has provided valuable insights into future college and career plans for all of you, as well as advantages to participating in BranchOut. If you all would like to learn more about BranchOut and our future panels, please check us out at www.bellbranchout.org or like us on Facebook at Veritas Education Leaders. We also hope to see returning mentors applying this year, as well as new members and candidates. Although our first early bird deadline has passed, our second early bird deadline is coming up, with the due date being April 10th and our regular deadline being May 11th.
So for future updates on future workshops, feel free to follow us on our social media platforms given in the chat, and you can also see them on the presentation here. So thank you everyone for attending, and we invite our panelists to stay after a few minutes to take a group picture, but everyone else, have a good night. Thanks again for coming, and we hope to see you again soon.
Okay. Kevin and Austin, I don't know if you can maybe show your BranchOut t-shirt a bit more.
Oh, in the photo, you mean? In the photo? Okay, hold on.
We couldn't see it.
Let me move my computer.
Yeah, 1 second.
Oh, too short.
Or maybe.
Okay, I'm ready.
Got it? You got it? Okay.
Hey, you guys got different shirts than us, you two.
I know.
Oh, you three,
okay.
actually.
Smile.